Supreme L'homme by Fragrance World. How close is this to Guerlain L'homme Ideal EDP? Stay tuned. Hey everybody, it's Jamar back from Vegas Scents, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, again, we're going to be doing a comparison between Supreme L'homme by Fragrance World. We're comparing that with Guerlain L'homme Ideal EDP. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. Also, to anyone watching the channel, go ahead and leave me a like and a comment. All right. So this fragrance, I did receive this for free from BANADIRFRAGRANCE.com. Definitely thank you to Salim for sending me this, as well as 3 other fragrances. I'm definitely appreciative of that. And I've been sitting on this fragrance for a little bit because I needed to get a sample of this fragrance. So I finally did get one in, and there are definitely some differences, I would say, between the 2 fragrances. So I already have what I want to say in regards to like the mid and the dry down, but just to kind of refresh myself on the opening here, I'm just going to go ahead and spray these on. And you get a little bit more of a, and I wouldn't say a little bit more, you definitely get a alcohol blast with the Fragrance World Supreme L'homme that I would say you don't really get with the Guerlain. The Guerlain is pretty smooth from the initial spray. Now, the other thing that I can say that you get, in terms of a difference between the Supreme L'homme and the Guerlain, is the Guerlain is definitely a lot more balanced when it comes to like these sort of top or opening notes. So the top notes in the Guerlain are almond, spices, lavender, bergamot, rosemary, and thyme. And I would say you get like a really, really good blend of all of those, so it's like the same percentage of each one of those notes, I would say, is kind of all blended together in the Guerlain. Whereas with the Fragrance World fragrance, the Supreme L'homme, in my opinion, I'm getting a fresher sort of take on this fragrance. I'm definitely getting more bergamot, definitely getting more lavender, and I would say I'm also getting more sort of rosemary from this fragrance. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I do actually prefer the way that the sort of opening of this fragrance smells over the Guerlain. In my opinion, the Guerlain L'homme Ideal EDP, you do get, in my opinion, more spices with this and more of sort of like an almondy touch. I'm really not getting that much almond from the Fragrance World fragrance. But again, it's not like the spices are necessarily one thing that's sticking out more than like the other in the Guerlain. Like I said, the Guerlain is just more so kind of just, it's really smooth, it's balanced. You are able to kind of pick up, certain individual things, I feel like when you really kind of concentrate on it. But I feel like at the end of the day, there's not really one thing that's kind of overtaking the other. Whereas again, definitely with this, the bergamot, the rosemary, and the lavender, in my opinion, are definitely overtaking the spice and the almond for the most part. So that's the main difference that I get in the opening. And it kind of carries through, I would say, all the way past the mid and into the dry down. So that was the main difference that I noticed pretty much with this fragrance when kind of smelling it side by side with the Guerlain. This fragrance, in my opinion, the Fragrance World Supreme L'homme, it's like a fresher sort of take on this scent profile. You can tell that this is definitely like supposed to be a clone of the Guerlain L'homme Ideal, EDP, but you can tell that they, I guess, kind of had more of an emphasis on kind of like that sort of fresher bergamot and lavender note in the fragrance. And so it does sort of give this, in my opinion, a slightly different texture than what you get with the Guerlain. With the Guerlain, like I said, this one has more of sort of like that almond, like a creamy sort of almond. You do get more spices with this. And in my opinion, it kind of gives the scent profile, or the scent, it gives the scent a more sort of, in my opinion, denser sort of feel to the fragrance. All right. So this is slightly denser, and this is slightly more sort of aromatic and lighter, in my opinion. But again, I do like that about this. Now, in terms of the performance on the Guerlain, it is better. And I think it's because this seems to be like more of a sort of denser, sort of texture that this fragrance has, the Guerlain. It does last longer than what the Fragrance World does. The last time that I wore it, I had it on both of my hands like how I do right now. And after washing my hands, a couple of times and even going into the next day, I could still smell this on my hand when I woke up the next morning. I couldn't smell the Fragrance World anymore. All right. So that was definitely a sign that, okay, the Guerlain is absolutely stronger than what the Fragrance World is. Now, I still get at least about 7 to 8 hours or so out of the Fragrance World. But again, the sort of projection and longevity that you're getting with the Guerlain, I would say it is better, especially once you start getting into kind of like that, the end of the mid into the dry down. I would say for the most part, from like the opening to the mid, the performance on both of these are about the same, when it comes to, how well they project. They just have a different sort of texture to them for the most part. Like I said, this one is just going to be a little bit denser, but this definitely still pushes, even though it's a more kind of lighter aromatic sort of feel that it has to it. All right. So I think overall, I would have to say that this is going to be about 80 to 85%. I would say more so about 85% close to the original from Guerlain. Now, once you start getting into the dry down, that's when these two really start to become pretty close. So I would say in the dry down, this is going to be about 95% close to the original. But from like the opening through the mid, for the most part, this is going to be more so kind of like, I would say about 80% or so. So, just overall, I would say about 85%, 85 to 90% for the most part. All right. So for the price that you can get this for and how readily available, this is, I would still recommend this fragrance. Overall, I would probably give this about, a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. This is a really, really solid fragrance. Because this sort of has that more kind of aromatic, lighter feel to it, I will say that it does sort of give you that sort of sense that sometimes it kind of comes and goes, at least on me. Whereas with this fragrance, it does kind of let me know that it's there a little bit more than, what the Fragrance World fragrance does. All right. So that's one thing to consider with this. But like I said, overall, the overall longevity on this is pretty good, at least about 7 to 8 hours. All right. So let me know what you all think about the Supreme L'homme from Fragrance World. Again, like I said, I would give this about a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. This is probably going to be for a lot of different people, especially if you can't really find the original. This, I would say, would be probably your best alternative, even though it's not exactly the same for about half of the life of the fragrance. All right. So definitely check this one out. Like I said, I'll have links in the description to where you can pick this up. And if you smell this fragrance, let me know what you all think about this fragrance. Do you all agree with my assessment in terms of how close this fragrance is to the original and also the performance? All right, so definitely let me know in the comments. Once again, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And also, if you're watching, just go ahead and leave me a like and a comment. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.